Chair,
Come to order.
the minute's wrong.
Regular meeting of the Town of Florence Planning and Zoning Commission to be held today, Thursday, October 15th, 2015 at 7 p.m., at the Town Hall Council Chambers located at 775 North Main Street, Florence, Arizona. Mr. Olgin, you take the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Chairman Pronza.
Here.
Vice Chair Patrick.
Here.
Commissioner Petty.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Fenstermaker. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 4, discussion, approval, disapproval of the minutes of the special meeting conducted on August 26, 2015. Do we have any comments?
I didn't find anything that looked good to me. So.
Yeah, it's plain brown vanilla to me too, so, okay. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the special meeting conducted August 26th.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Oh, Jesus. Okay, new business. Under A, Bonnybrook Solar Project Design Review Application, PZ 15-53DR. This is a discussion, approval, or disapproval of a design review application by Solar Star Arizona, a subsidiary of Sun Power, on behalf of MLC Farms, LLC, and the Clark Family Trust to develop a photoelectric solar facility located in an area that is generally bounded by Division Dam Road to the south, Bonnybrook Road alignment to the north, Padilla Road to the west, and Quail Run Road alignment to the east. Mr. Olgin, do we have a presentation?
Yes, we do. Chair, Vice Chair, Commission, good evening. Before staff gets started, the applicant here tonight wishes to do their presentation first. Drew Gibbons, they'll do the presentation in front of you, and then staff will follow up, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Yes.
Chair, members of the Commission, as Gilbert said, I'm Drew Gibbons. I'm with Sun Power, developer on the project. I spoke to you at another hearing, and I believe I presented then as well. So I really only have 3 slides to go through, and I'm going to turn it over to planning. Hopefully, we won't duplicate anything. I won't stick on this slide very long, but just want to talk about who Sun Power is. Again, we're a U.S. headquartered company, we're a U.S.-based company, headquartered in San Jose, California. We have over 6,000 employees. We've been around for 30 years. And here just kind of gives you an idea of where our project is. The Bonnybrook Solar Project is right here in black within the circle. And I only have 2 arrows here just to show this is Sun Power's project here. And then often confused with the Bonnybrook project is the Sandstone Solar Project, which is S-Power. So we just made our names very similar to confuse you, but they're 2 different companies. And you can see the Bonnybrook project, our project, is out about, it's northeast of town, about 3.5 miles near the state prison complex. You see the flood zone here. There's actually, just adjacent to the site, some prison land, some farmland is farmed by inmates, as opposed to the Sandstone project, which is surrounded by a master plan community. One quick slide here on Sun Power technology. I won't go through everything here. Just at the last hearing here, the last Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, I think one of the commissioners had a question about the height of the system. So I did dug into that a little deeper. And horizontal supports, the torque tubes for our single axis tracker system are about 5 feet tall. So if the panels are at completely level, your system's going to be about 5 feet. at full tilt, so when they're at their 45-degree angle, the max height's going to be about 8 feet, never higher than 9.5 feet. And that's really it for me. I just threw up a slide here that's in the design review application of the site plan that we could use for reference, but pass it over to planning.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commission. So you've already, since you gave a great description as to where it's located, I appreciate that. And Drew just gave another couple of slides regarding the location. I won't bore you by that. It's all in the staff report. The site you have, or the image you have in front of you, kind of just a close-up of the site. Currently, it's agricultural, surrounded to the west by some homes, some property owners, and they're off of Padilla Road. And there's the site plan that was just showed. I wanted to just cover some of the basic points. This project will be on 282 acres of agricultural land. And as you know, the main road to get to the site is Diversion Dam, which leads up to Quail Run Road. The primary access is going to be off of Quail Run Road. Let's see if I have a better image. Let's try this. This might work better. There we go. Here we go. So primary access is going to be off of Quail Run. And to the north is Bonnie Brook Road. This is how you access the site. I believe it's 20 feet wide. It'll have a gate for security. The secondary point of access is going to be off of Diversion Dam, which is, I believe, right here. And it'll also have a gate, Knox box, which will allow the emergency services to access the site. What we have here in front of you is this is kind of the layout of the very top of the entry point, the switch yard, the SRP switch yard. Over here we have an image that shows the layout to the operations building. The black portion, as you see here, that's the pavement, and the rest of it is going to be compacted soil. This image that we have here in front of you, this shows you at the bottom is the elevations of the property, or I'm sorry, of the actual building itself, and the top is shows you the layout of the inside of the property. Now, wanted to cover a few more things, but some of the improvements that they're going to do is that SunPower has agreed to do for this site is they're going to put what's called chip seal on Padilla Road. It's a private access, but for the sake of the neighbors, they're going to pave with chip seal on this access point. They're not going to do any more improvements to Diversion Dam, but they are going to chip seal Quail Run Road. Bonnie Brook isn't going to get any improvements. It's going to be a utility corridor. Within the site, the map in front of you shows 3 different types of road. The one in red, that's the main access to get around the entire site. And that's also for emergency access. It's going to have a top coat that's going to allow the fire trucks and emergency vehicles to travel that, to navigate it without sinking or having any issues. The brown one that's kind of in the center, that's compacted soil. That's more for maintenance to get back and forth. And I believe the lighter color one off to the left, also going to be more of a maintenance road. As you see towards the top of the project entry point, that's where we're going to have the main access to the operations building, to the switch yard. Another item that staff worked with SunPower when we were developing the site was we were trying to work with them to do some type of fencing around the site, and we were able to agree on doing masonry wall along the southern portion of the property. On the image in front of you, it's all in purple, and it's also not going to just be a 6-foot masonry wall, but it's also going to have landscaping in the front. Now, the portion that's to the east and to the north, that's in green, that's going to have chain link and it's going to have vertical slats, and that's to kind of help hide the inner workings of the project. There's not really a whole lot to see besides the operations building. And then the blue off to the west on this side here, that's just going to be a regular chain link. And towards the bottom off of Padilla Road, that's going to be a chain link with landscaping as well. So you're going to have landscaping around the majority of the southern portion of this project. They picked landscaping that should do well. It's mostly ocotillos, creosotes, those type of plants that are already in existence out in the desert, and they shouldn't take much for them to adapt and live on their own. SunPower has agreed to maintain it for the duration of the project, to keep it free of weeds, trash, any items like that. They are going to use a water truck to keep it watered in the beginning. They had also planned to do a small wall sign that's going to be on the entrance of the project, including within this project. They have we work with them to have plenty of access points where people could turn around, large vehicles could turn around, so they wouldn't get stuck within the project. So we feel that after working with them and their team, we were able to compromise and come up with a well put together project. I would cover the solar arrays, but Mr. Gibbons had already done that. The lighting, I believe they said that there's some lighting that's going to be around the operations building, but not really much around the rest of the project. Mostly not going to be needed. Now you're not going to really have people walking around where the solar arrays are going to be at. So I did ask them, but it's really not going to be needed. Staff has recommended approval of this project. If you have any questions for me or for Mr. Gibbons or any of his team, be happy to answer them. There is 7 conditions that they have looked at and have agreed to. Once again, this is a similar project as what you're seeing that's being done just to the west of town. So, any questions for staff?
I do, Gilbert. It's just an observation. I'm curious. On Padilla Road, we have a residence, and that, if I'm not mistaken, is open chain link in front of their home. And then on Diversion Dam Road, and Quail Run, or at least on Diversion Dam Road, we've put masonry.
Yes, sir.
Seems kind of backwards. I can understand Quail Road because you want it's the main access road. But what about the residents?
Chair, Vice Chair, Commission, staff had looked at that, but I believe our reasoning was that Padilla Road is a private access, not public. So public should not be on that road to begin with. That's why the focus was to stay on Diversion Dam for the brick fencing.
Well, I agree with that. I'm just thinking of the homeowner. He gets to look out his front window now, and
They did try
it's
to.
kind of fun to watch the
Chair.
solar panels go back and forth, but after
Yeah.
a while, I think it'll get old.
Chair, Vice Chair, I could answer that real quickly as well. The request for the slats on the north side and on the east side, the slats in the chain link fence actually came from that property owner.
Really?
That it was just a particular requirement that they had, and they had a little bit of leverage because we actually had to bring in the roadway easement that fell onto their property. And so as a condition of being brought in and working with them on this project, that was one thing that they were concerned about. The residential units on Padilla, their concern was that they wanted that they wanted to make sure that they had a dedication of a private easement for their access, because it's actually not even really any kind of dedicated roadway there at all. So they wanted to make sure that they had legal access to their homes, and they wanted to make sure that it was chip sealed. And the reason that they wanted chip seal was more because of some of the correctional facility traffic goes down the road and passes by their home. It's not really by the impact of what the solar farm is doing or anybody else, or even the residents there. And then the wall along the diversion dam came from staff, because we wanted to be on par with what we did with the other solar projects, where we've dressed them up a little bit along the main frontages. So kind of around each side you have either property owners or the town suggesting what to do along the frontages.
All right, well, I'm just thinking ahead. I think this is a 30, 35-year project. So what we do now, we have a hard time changing later on. Which brings me to my next question. What does the interface look like between the project and the power grid? How are we getting power from the project to the grid?
Chairman, members of the commission, as you could see, and I don't have it pulled up here, but you can see in the design review application, the interconnection facilities are in the northeast corner of the site.
Right?
So there's SRP's 115 kV transmission line that runs east-west along the northern border of the project site.
Right.
So we'll be building a project substation in that northeast corner. SRP will be building their switch yard, and then we'll be tying in directly into the existing 115.
I'm going to have wires hanging out up to the power lines.
Well, the power lines are within, I believe, 30 to 50 feet of the site, and there's already existing, I think they're about 45 feet, the transmission lines. It's a large, 115 voltage, so we'll be tying directly into that. I mean, this is...
What would you think if those lines, if it was necessary to put those lines underground?
That's not something that SRP has suggested. I mean, I think
I don't care what SRP would suggest. They don't live here. What I'm thinking about, let me give you some background. I took a trip up to South Dakota recently, and on my way up, I used some rural roads, and I happened to pass some solar farms. And the thing that stood out, coyote ugly, I don't know if you know what that means, but that's really ugly, was the interface from the project to the power lines.
Mm-hmm.
They had the substation, which you could see clearly above the fence, and then these lines going up in rural area, but still residential. And it looked like hell. Now, once this is built and it's online, there's not going to be any playing around with how you transfer power into the grid. So my thinking is that I'd like that interface to address the idea that 10 years from now, that area might be residential. I don't want that look. I want some thinking about how it's going to look.
Chairman, members of the commission, I certainly understand your point. I mean, what I would say is that the project is interconnecting into existing transmission line. We're adding, I believe, 2 poles. So it's not, if we were to go underground, it's not really changing the aesthetic very much from the existing.
Go underground and up the pole instead of the lines hanging in the air.
I mean, there certainly is but we're talking about a 30-foot line. I understand, I don't want to dismiss it, but I mean, in order to have a project of this size, you're going to need a substation. As far as, connecting to transmission, it doesn't get much better than being adjacent to the site. Now, I could see if SRP had plans to underground their existing transmission line, it would certainly make sense for us to do the same. But, I don't know. I see your point. It's just I'm not sure that it solves the aesthetic problem that you're presenting by just undergrounding this.
Well, see, I'm working off images I saw while I was traveling.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't necessarily new facilities, but I would imagine they're not old either.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to be very similar to what's out there right now. So there's 45-foot approximately transmission lines. We're going to be adding 2 new poles, kind of a triangle to the site, and the lines are going to be at a similar height, but it's not like we're adding a whole new transmission line. We're tapping into what's already there on the site. And I will say that Bonnie Brook Road is existing right-of-way now from the county. When it's coming into the town, my understanding is the town plans to abandon that right-of-way and make it just a utility easement. So that's not going to be a trafficked road in the future.
Is that right? Is that what's going to happen, Mark?
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the commission, the Bonnie Brook alignment, the road is actually in that area not going to be on that alignment. That will be the utility corridor that exists today for the 115 kV line for SRP. We typically don't talk about underlining lines unless they're under 69 kV. So once you get to the larger lines, it really becomes cost prohibitive, and then also we'll have issues with SRP, and being that they are essentially a political subdivision of the state, we really don't have a lot of control over what they do to their lines. The other thing in the case of this project is that north of them is essentially floodplain, undevelopable floodplain. It may be modified at some point, but probably that's a long time coming. And to the west of them, beyond those homes, is where the correctional facilities have operations right now. So we don't see
Abandon that, this whole thing is mute.
we don't see a lot of other types of development occurring out in that area for many years to come because of the nature of the surrounding uses. And maybe it turns out that it will be more employment types of uses than residential, because there's a lot of, as you know, a lot of correctional facilities in that area, sand and gravel operations, and then there's a lot of floodplain issues as you get north of them.
All right.
So in a more residential area, we would probably have greater concern, particularly if there were any added smaller lines. But on the larger lines, especially working with SRP, our hands typically are tied pretty well on that. We do get, just to add on to that, the town does get an aesthetic allotment. So with SRP, we can't condition that they underline their, put their facilities underground or do certain things or put walls up and things like that. But they do give us an allotment of money every year that we can build up for some time and use for aesthetic projects. We have a substation up north that actually we're working with them in Pinal County on putting a wall along the frontage of that facility using some of those aesthetic funds. So they operate a little bit differently than, say, if we're working with APS.
All right, that's all I have then.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Mr. Chair, that if they were going to put, if we could convince them to put, not these guys, but SRP to put all those transmission lines underground, then I could just having a short run of above ground is with all the stuff that's out there already.
Okay. Where are we? Anything?
One thing. I know Mr. Olguin said it, but if you could say it, that'd be great. That you've seen the conditions, the 7 that the staff recommended, and you're good with them.
I have seen them, and we are good with them, and we emailed to confirm.
Great, thank you.
And then I think just quickly, you've read the stipulations, the 8 stipulations. You understand them. You agree with them.
Yes.
Okay, then can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the design review for the Bonnie Brook Solar Project application PZ 15-53DR, along with the 7 staff recommended stipulations.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Section B, Vista Grand at Walker Butte, pre-plat extension. This is a discussion, approval, disapproval of a preliminary plat extension for Vista Grand at Walker Butte submitted by United Engineering Group. The subject site is approximately 154 acres in size and is located west of the Union Pacific Railroad and south of the Hiller Road alignment in Florence, Arizona. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the one where we asked them to put in a secondary access.
Chair?
Need a presentation?
Yes, tonight we're going to have the planner, Will Randolph, do the presentation for this case.
Hello, excuse me. Hello there. My name is Will Randolph, new town planner here.
I will.
And this is the pre-plat we are asking an extension for. Generally, you can see the lot arrangement here. Pretty much it is 605 lots, single-family residential lots. Primary access is from Walker Granite Road, which comes from south of the Hunt Highway. Average lot sizes are looking at roughly 6,300 feet. Proposed densities are 3.92 dwelling units per acre, and the subdivision expands from the current plan. Well, it expands on the green belts and the open spaces within the plat itself, and it adds the walking trails. They're also approved with the original pre-plat. And of course, the zoning is a PUD, and it has many single-family R1 type of residential zonings. Here's a aerial of kind of the northern subdivision north of the Vista Grande at Walker Butte, which you can see that's the south, but I brought in this aerial to show the easement on the northeast corner of the subdivision there, and to show the potential emergency access if it did occur. And it comes from the railroad and Hunt Highway alignment there to give the access into the Vista Grande subdivision. Then also the primary access is the Granite Road right here. Here's a close-up of that same northeast corner emergency access. So it would come from this alignment here, and then if fire trucks or whatever other emergency vehicles had to give access, they could use this area right here to get into the subdivision. As we know, it was in conformance with our zoning codes, and it received a PUD. And the primary access, as I described earlier, is coming from Walker Butte, but with the emergency access at the northeast corner of the site. And that includes the presentation there. And as it is an extension. The current plat, pre-plat, was about to expire tomorrow on the 16th, and that's why they're asking for another 6 months.
Okay.
We have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I just thought I'd comment a couple of things. Jim and I remember we did this because there was only single access to the property. So these guys came up with, county gave up some land alongside that Oasis development to allow an emergency access for emergency. And then I was going to mention, talking about plat extensions today at the county, we were informed by council that
Excuse me, Commissioner, if we could stick to the case.
It's related. I'll wait till I'll tell you what. I'll wait till we get.
Sorry, I do apologize.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. If it's related, then we're not going to stop on our tracks.
If it's related to the case, go
Only
Vice Chair.
Only from the standpoint it talks about plat extension.
I believe.
I'll wait till the open.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
No, I'm good.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Vista Grande at Walker Butte pre-plat extension.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along. Florence Apartments Associates LLC Town Core Infill Incentive Plan Request, EZ1560INF. This is a discussion, approval, disapproval of a request by the Town of Florence on behalf of Florence Apartments Associates LLC to utilize the Town Core Infill Incentive Plan mechanism to assist with the substantial rehabilitation of existing affordable housing complexes in Florence, Arizona. Mr. Olgin.
Chair, Vice Chair, I'll do the presentation for this case. Thank you for the introduction. I'll try to make this brief. about a year ago, a representative from the Florence Apartments Association came to the town asking for some assistance with possibly some fee waivers, and he was doing this in order to get the support of council, and with support of council, he could go and apply for a grant, and I believe it was in the sum of $3 million or more that would apply to these properties we're going to show you right now. Okay, it's not working. It's actually 3 properties, but the first one is this one here that's on the corner of Butte and Willow, the Manor Apartments. Here's an image of what it looks like today. Here's a rendering. This shows you the Butte and Willow. And here's the other 2 properties that we're talking about, Florence Park Apartments and the Big Horn Ranch Apartments. As I said, he came to council, worked with staff, and on February 17th, 2015, council approved a resolution, 1497-15, approving the support of the future waiver, and it would apply to plan review, building permits, and also impact fees and other related fees, but it wasn't to exceed $80,000. Now, with that said, staff, I wanted to mention that this incentive plan that we have, the Town Core Infill Incentive Plan, we created this and it was adopted several years ago, I believe 2011, and we've had a few opportunities to actually use it, and this is another example of where this is going to be a big benefit to the town. What this allows, along with the waivers, it also works with non-conforming properties, which this is the case with these three different properties. So when the grant is used along with the waivers, we're going to be able to basically rehab 3 separate apartment complexes here in Florence. And ultimately, what's going to result from this is converting 10 2-bedroom units into 1-bedroom units, converting 18 2-bedroom units into 3 bedroom units, some which have 2 baths. Now, staff has given you basically the same details in your report, but this is a great opportunity for the town, where we get to rehab some of our existing apartment complexes here in town. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Mark is here as well. We have the town attorney with us. After tonight's meeting, this will also go to town council for action on November 16th. You have any questions for staff?
Just one. Right now, here you're talking about a recommendation. In the agenda, we're talking about approval, disapproval. Which are we doing?
I apologize. It should be a recommendation. That was staff's fault.
This should open up to public.
No, there's no public hearing on this case.
Okay.
I had one question. If you're
Yes, sir.
converting some of these to 3 bedrooms, it says most or some will have 2 bathrooms. I would think that with a 3-bedroom apartment, they should all be 2 bathrooms, or at least a bath and a half.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commission, I wasn't privy to what the grant allowed or required, so I would believe that he's following what the grant will allow him to do. Staff has been able to work with CDBG grants and some other CLG grants, and they're very specific as what, but I don't know the actual details of what he can and can't do.
Okay, well, it's a comment on record now, so. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
I believe the only thing that is in there is an occupancy of 1.5 people per bedroom. I think is the only stipulation they made.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything either. This is complicated stuff, and I'm glad to see that the investment, however it comes by, is being made here in Florence.
Yeah.
Staff agrees.
Excellent. Mr. Petty, anything?
I have nothing.
Then I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of Florence Apartments Associates Town Core Infill Incentive Plan Request, PZ 1560 INF.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Call to the public. Commission response. Call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticisms made, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the commission shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion, legal action. Do we have any public comment? Then I'll close to the public. Call to the commission. Dash, current events only. Now, this is the first time on the agenda, so I'll explain what's been explained to me. The commission may comment on items that have been discussed today on the agenda. They may also comment on current events, and I emphasize the word current. So, Mr. Petrick.
Mike, I wanted to bring up today the council, Mark, Cliff, you should probably talk to Mark. I just lost his name.
Langetz.
Yeah, he's deputy attorney. The law changed, I think, about 2000, 2007, about how you extend plat approvals. And the way they're interpreting it at county is that we are no longer going to extend plat approvals beyond one time, and it's only going to be 1 year. We did some earlier this year that we allowed 2 and 3 year extensions, and some of those original plat approvals were done 10 years ago. And so we were adding more stipulations. We had something like 30, 35 stipulations, and it just got out of hand. So you may want to talk to counsel over there, Cliff, and get some kind of an idea. I don't remember the exact, I've been through so many things today, but Mark Langwitz is the deputy attorney over there, and he can give you an idea about that. But I thought I'd bring it up because I think it's pertinent to what we don't see it as much here as they do at county. So other than that,
You're good. Mr. Petty. Well, I certainly don't know any current events, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion we adjourn this evening's meeting at 7:40.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.